you guys were
Pardon?
you and Emad were instrumental in bringing the Muslim Spain piece into the conversation. It was very significant, and of course Spain, which for 8 centuries was dominated by Muslims. Who really presented what I think is a model society as we move forward. As we talk about the integration with Muslims and non-Muslims, and how do we all get along in creating a civilization, and how Islam played a significant part in the lead on that and setting specifications for that. Emad, and we talk about the importance of the Moorish Spain project, and that being the first exhibition that the museum hosted. And at the end of Moorish Spain, it marks a very significant period, and kind of a triangular as we talk about Black History Month. It happens in 1492. At the end of Muslim Spain. It also introduces the launch of Christianity to the West, with Christopher Columbus being sponsored, of course, by Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand out of Spain. And also the end of some of the great African empires that begin to fall in the late part of the 15th century. So as we talk about Islam's kind of West African legacy, and as we move into North Africa with Moorish Spain. Emad, can you talk a little bit about the migration of Muslims in North Africa and what that meant to the Moorish Spain influx of Muslims there and that whole civilization?
Yeah, I'd be glad to. I mean, obviously, I guess after 1492, many of the Muslims and Jews who were living in harmony in Spain were pushed out of Spain. So many of them actually migrated to North Africa, and the whole area has evolved over the years, from 1492 on, and really changed the dynamics of what's happening in the whole area. And then, of course, over the next several hundred years, began the colonization of Africa and the exploitation of Africa, both in West Africa and Eastern Africa as well. So that's really what kind of led us into the development of a piece about the West African component. In the last probably 100+ years, there was substantial rediscovery of ancient manuscripts that were rediscovered in West Africa that basically showed a literate culture in Africa. And as you know, many of the educational programs in the United States and really throughout the world, basically taught us that Africa only had oral tradition. So this kind of changed the whole perspective of, the literate culture of Africa, particularly West Africa, talking about, empires that, were there for hundreds of years. A lot of richness because of gold and salt trade and the trades of books. So many of the things that actually are stereotypical depictions of Africa as primitive societies were actually kind of flipped upside down. And that's why we felt very strongly in 2006 to launch an exhibit called The Legacy of Timbuktu, Wonders of the Written Word, that kind of connects the African-American story with their ancestors in West Africa. Particularly, it kind of changes the dynamics of how you teach African history. Instead of starting with a gloomy side of Africa, with the enslavement of Africans, bringing them to the American continent, we start when Africa was in its heyday. People were educated, and there were very strong civilizations there, and then the colonization of Africa, and then the enslavement of Africans, and then bringing them here to the America, and then the influence that African Americans had on the progress of the American civilization as well. So all of those were kind of components that led us in the development of the Timbuktu exhibit in 2006, which is still ongoing today as well.
And of course, the International Museum of Muslim Cultures, which is in Jackson, Mississippi. Jackson, Mississippi has, as far as the last consensus data shows, it has a racial makeup of about 70% African or Black Americans within that city. And I know that if previously I was on a couple years ago, I was on a conference call discussing the museum and the success of the museum. And as you try to connect the story of Africans from Africa to bring it back here to the United States, to the history of the United States, the development of the United States, what kind of support are you seeing from the Jackson, Mississippi community, and what kind of feedback are you receiving from the museum and the exhibitions that you're showing that kind of bring a really interesting perspective to African American history that we don't see on a daily basis?
Well, I think that most people are usually surprised that you could have a successful museum, operating in Mississippi. But to be quite honest, we feel we're very excited and feel very pleased with the kind of support that we've gotten from Mississippi legislators, politicians and leaders, business leaders, as well as, cultural groups and
the university
as
well, right?
Pardon?
There's a university there that you guys are in partner with?
Well, actually, we're in partner with a number of universities and colleges. But our first partner was Jackson State University and Tougaloo College.
Wow.
But we also have, a partnership with Millsaps College, Ole Miss, or the University of Mississippi, University of Southern Mississippi, and, the Jackson Public School System, as well as some other private schools and other organizations. So in terms of educational institutions and the partnership that we've been able to establish, it's very strong, and we have been able to do a number of programs and do a number of outreach kinds of activities with those partners.
Yeah,
but I think, but I did want to say, in terms of, in addition to that kind of educational outreach support, the city of Jackson actually hosts the museum in its a major Mississippi Arts Center. They've been great partners of ours. As I said, the Mississippi State legislators funded the Timbuktu Project. Our Board of Supervisors, Hinds County Board of Supervisors, helped to fund the Legacy of Timbuktu exhibition, as well as a number of other business partners, individual businesses and corporations, as well as, Nissan Foundation, the Mississippi Humanities Council, and other organizations. So we've been well, supported by, the Mississippi community.
Yeah, we're coming up against a break. I'm going to ask you guys to hold on. And when we come back on the other side, you're listening to the Muslim Street. We want to talk Okolo and Emad about a massive conference that was put together last Black History Month, the Islamic West Africa's legacy of literacy and music to America and the world. Back on the other side, you're listening to the Muslim Street.